The Evans Gambit turns what is known as one of the most boring and tactically dry openings in all of chess into an insanely fun minefield of deadly tricks and traps. We have the opportunity to sacrifice up to 3 pawns for a ginormous attack that is completely sound, and black has to know exactly what they're doing or they will lose right away. This opening is good for all levels of chess, and it is my job to teach you, so let's get started. But first, how do we actually get to the Evans Gambit? It comes after pawn to e4, black plays pawn to e5, knight to f3, knight to c6, so very standard, and now bishop to c4, the Italian game. Now, black's most common reply here is bishop to c5, the Gaucho piano, and it is known for being pretty boring and tactically dry, especially at higher levels. However, here we play pawn to b4, and this is now going to be a super fun game. So this move sacrifices the b-pawn, and most people here will end up capturing. That is what most of the video is about. However, something like 10% of people will get scared and back their bishop up to b6. This is the Evans Gambit declined. I'll look at it real quick, and honestly, it is not very challenging. Here we play pawn to c3, defend the pawn, black will play knight to f6, and now we play pawn to d3. And this pawn formation does look kind of obscure and kind of odd, but objectively it is good for us. And the game usually goes something like castles, and we play pawn to a4. So if black plays like pawn to d6, then now we can push all the way up, and their bishop's actually trapped, so they have to get a square for it now. If they play pawn to a5, this just isn't that great because now we push up to b5 and we attack their knight. It has to drop back, and it's kind of annoying for them. So most people here will go pawn to a6, and if they do this, now we push up to a5, bishop backs up, and after simple castles, we just have a fine position. Our queen will go to b3, this bishop will go to either e3 or to g5, this knight will go to d2, and yeah, we just have a fine position. And we are actually slightly better here due to the fact that we have so much queenside space. So that is the Evans Gambit declined, but now let's look at the more popular bishop takes on b4, Evans Gambit accepted. So if they do this, then now we play pawn to c3. Attack the bishop, and our main plan here, which happens in every single variation, is pawn to d4 on the next move. Now, the main line for black is bishop back to a5, which will be what most of the video is about, but first let's look at two pretty common sidelines. The first one is bishop to c5, which is especially prevalent at beginner level, however, it is also not very good. We strike in the center, pawn to d4, attack the bishop, black will probably capture, and instead of taking back, we are actually just going to castle here. And this move might look odd because can't black capture yet again and they're up 3 pawns? The answer is yes, however it's not very good because of the very nice trap. Bishop takes on f7 and we're going to win material back. Black is pretty much forced to capture, and now we play queen to d4 check, or sorry, queen to d5 check. We check their king, we attack their bishop, they cannot defend both. So after the king moves, we can simply take their bishop, we can also take the other pawn on c3, and yes, in this position we are still down 1 pawn, but we are actually just much better here, because our lines are super open, black cannot castle, and their king is wide open as well. Development will come super easy, and this is just a great position. Let's look at real quick, they also have one other thing they can do here, which is not falling for the trap. They'll fall for the trap, I think, 50% of the time. It's super common. But if they do play like pawn to d6, then we can simply capture in d4, bishop backs up, and after simple knight to c3, we once again have an advantage here, even though we're down material. So that is for the bishop to c5 sideline, not that great. There's also one other sideline that's not very special, if I'm honest, and that is bishop to e7. If they do this, then once again, we strike in the center, pawn to d4, black will capture. This time, we actually do want to capture back. And after something like pawn to d6, castles, knight out, knight out. Once again, we are slightly better here, even though we're down a pawn, because we just have more development, and the bishop on e7 is just super sad. So those are the two main sidelines, but now let's look at the main line with bishop to a5. So, bishop sticks around on a5 main line, and now we strike in the center once again. Pawn d4, Black's only really good move here is to capture, and like the other line with bishop to c5, we're actually just going to castle here. And this move sacrifices yet another pawn. Most people here will end up capturing, but if they also play something else like knight to e7 for example, we're simply going to want to capture on d4, and we just have a fine position here. But like I said, most people will capture on c3, so we're now down 3 pawns here, but we're going to get an enormous attack. Here we play queen to b3. Now this move attacks the pawn again, but more importantly, it attacks the f7 pawn as well. Black's most common move here is queen to e7 to defend like this. They can also try queen to f6, but this isn't as good because it walks right into bishop to g5, and why give us free development? So most people here go queen to e7, and here we're simply going to go knight to c3, capture the pawn. Black will probably capture, we will take back, and an important little note here, Black cannot capture on e4 because of rook to e1. This move pins this, and their queen is simply lost, so we're just going to win a queen, and we're just completely winning here with like no challenge, so they cannot take the pawn. But what is most common here is for Black to go knight to f6. Attack the pawn like this, and here we have a very important move, bishop to a3. This is one of the advantages of pushing the b pawn up, because now we get this really nice development square for the bishop, and we attack the queen immediately. So Black here is pretty much always going to play pawn to d6, their only good move, and now we have a crazy attacking move, pawn to e5. We push this pawn all the way up, jam it up Black's throat, and the crazy thing is that they can actually just not capture it. They can never capture it like this, because then that's a free queen, job well done. And they can also not capture it like this, because after knight takes, once again, they cannot take like this because of the queen, so they have to take their queen. Now rook over to e1, it's that same idea, their queen is pinned, and an important little note here, if they try knight to e4 to try and block everything out, then now we have rook takes e4, queen takes, other rook comes to e1, replacement, and their queen is once again just simply lost. So, yeah, they can't really capture the pawn. I mean, they can't really, they literally cannot capture the pawn. They have to play knight to e4. If they do not find this move, they're just completely lost here. Attacking our queen, we will back it up to b2. We have a lot of options here, but this is objectively the best. And after something like castles, we will move the other rook to e1, and the attack rages on. I'm not going to keep going since we're now 14 moves in, so this is arguably even the opening stage anymore, but the attack will carry on. Our other rook will come to the center, and their queen is just a sitting duck on e7, and even though we're still down 2 points of material here, according to the engine, we're actually just better. Alright, thank you so much for watching. Like, subscribe, do all that stuff, and I will see you next time. Have a fantastic day.